Ole, you had presented to us really a couple of weeks ago information that indicated you had thwarted an attack, a series of tests, resilience tests that might have been equal in scale to 9/11. How are you today, Ole?
I'm naked actually, but good. I'll try to do my best here. Yeah, what you're referring to is in mid-October last year. It was around the 20th of October. I stumbled across a lead that led me to what I believe was a planned European-size mass attack on 5 different European NATO countries in 5 major cities with 39 coordinated attacks plus 2 attacks on power plants in Sweden. So it was London, UK, it was Manchester, UK, it was Rotterdam in Holland, it was Barcelona in Spain, and it was Paris, France. And the way I stumbled across this was because there is this man that is getting quite famous now, I believe. His name is Ole Dammegard, he was or is the chief of security for something called Samverkan in Stockholm, which is a coordinated organ that coordinates the different authorities in case of terror attacks or disasters and so on. But what he did was in a film presentation, in that presentation, which I don't believe was meant for our eyes, but in that, after the alleged Stockholm truck attack, he explains that they were having a drill, and it was a drill that went live and became reality, as he says. And in it, he says that he raised the terror threat level to one of the highest 1 minute before the alleged attack happened. So how can you do that if the attack hasn't even happened? And it was a car attack or a truck, what could have been a truck accident at that point. So how could he know that and raise the terror threat level 1 minute before? And also in this presentation, he goes through all the different steps that he took within the next 30 minutes, which was closing down the whole center of Stockholm, putting the government in quarantine more or less. The defense departments was locked down, the subway trains and stations were locked down, the bus systems, everything was locked down due to this alleged terror attack. And he did that 1 minute before it happened. So I would say that is a smoking gun if I've ever seen one. After that, I started looking very closely into what he was being up to, and it was on his Twitter account that we found this tweet where it said that now they decided on 39 locations in Europe, in these 5 NATO countries that I mentioned before, and it was going to go down on October 23 and 24, and the duration would be 36 hours, and there would be it seems like 1,600 people involved. According to their own website, that would be just for the Swedish part, which would be 2 power plants, 1 water and 1 nuclear power plant in Sweden. It would be Älvkarleby and Forsmark. And so when I saw this, I mean, I almost, started feeling really sick, because I felt, oh my God, if this is not drills, but if these are actual planned attacks, then we're looking at a massive disaster. And since I've been tracking out these forces for many years, I know how they communicate as well. And I thought, oh my God, I'm onto something major here. So I spent several hours up until 4 a.m. that morning pumping out to many, many international radio stations. And I think within 24 hours, there were several 100,000 people around the world that were aware of this and were spreading this information. So when the date came, nothing happened. But instead, we had a crisis meeting where all the defense minister of NATO was gathered in Brussels. I had that reported from a freelance journalist who was there, who said, there's been this strange buildup and we've had no idea what was going on. And then boom, we saw your warning and suddenly everything made sense. And now they have this crisis meeting. Then the very next day, there was a major thing in in NATO, where articles were written about NATO almost imploding or sort of having a melting down from the inside. Also, all Israeli embassies globally were shut down, and the defense minister and vice president of the US were called back to the US. And then we had Donald Trump that went out and said that ISIS leader al-Baghdadi was killed, which was major news. The only problem is that this is the fourth time they killed him, so I don't know what the big deal is. Anyway, were these things connected or were they not? I would say that following up on all of these things around the world, it seems very much like that we came across something that could have gone very, very bad. And this was on the 23rd and 24th of October. The 24th of October, that's one of the NATO on the brink of implosion. On the October 21st was also the day of the United Nations. So should one of these attacks have been aimed at the United Nations, then that would have, just according to the old trauma reaction solution, that would just have justified that the United Nations created once and for all a one world army, which they've been wanting for a long time, where NATO, the United Nations forces, and the US military joined together according to this massive threat. But that, when we look now, if we fast forward, because a lot of things have happened since then, especially in Sweden, but in the other countries, it really slowed down massively. And the reason also why they chose these places were, I believe, that in Barcelona we have the Catalonia is trying to free itself from Spain, which is a problem for the dark forces. In Paris, France, we have the big uprising and demonstrations by the Yellow Vests, which would be a major problem. It was also the date when the Brexit thing was going to go through, which was a major problem for the dark forces. And then Rotterdam, I was informed, was by a naval officer, is sort of like the mouth of Europe when it comes to the import of food. So if that port was hit and sort of knocked out, that could create like starvation within a week or so in Europe. I mean, major problems. And if you, on top of that, have a nuclear power plant in Sweden that was blown to pieces and started leaking, all of this, you have absolute mayhem, which was then cause or give the excuse for implementing martial law, shutting down the internet, bringing in the soldiers in the street, all for our protection.
Right.
But now, fast forward here, and now we have this event 201, where Bill Gates and things that he has been founding has had this this virus simulation, coronavirus simulation, which we now see go live more or less. And it's exactly that, the exact thing that is now live. They were going through such an event, but the date was the 18th of October, which is like just 5 days, actually 5 days before this other attack, this massive multi-coordinated attack on Europe would have happened. So I'm here at a point where I'm asking myself, is that just a coincidence? Because if these two could have been combined, can you imagine the global mayhem that could have caused? If now they've been spread out, these things instead, but had they been coordinated and carried out at the very same time? So I'm speculating here, but I tell you, I feel that this could very well be coordinated. That is my point of it.
Right. And I should also add, Ole, for people who are watching us for the first time or aren't aware of the regular show that we do, in just about 20 minutes, we're going to be on Patreon and Subscribestar with Light On Conspiracies with Ole Dammegard. We're going to go in depth on this and other topics. We've got Cody Snodgres with us. Cody, how are you doing?
Doing great. It's a pleasure to be with you guys.
Yeah, always a pleasure to have you on. And people who want to listen to the full show can join us on patreon.com/lightonconspiracies, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth or subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We're also going to be talking about something that's been getting remarkably little attention given the types of focus that we usually see on these events. This mass shooting in Thailand over the weekend at a shopping mall, very unfortunately named Terminal 21. Ole's pointed out that a lot of the photography surrounding images we've seen around this event are featuring these telltale shoes that are being shown. Like, it doesn't make sense why somebody gets shot and their shoes stay there, but it always seems to be the case. Even in this picture that I've used for today's image, we see a car up on the curb here with these, actually the same shoes that are featured right here. So I don't know what's going on, if people got shot in a car outside the shoes, but this is another one of these events that was allegedly live streamed on Facebook at the time that it occurred. This guy walking around shooting people up. Ole, Cody, and I had done a video where we analyzed the Christchurch mosque shooting back when that occurred. If people didn't get a chance to see that, I think it's one of the best analysis videos of that event that exists on the internet. Cody, your expertise in firearms and as a military operative, it's invaluable in looking at these events and trying to figure out what's going on, right?
Right, yeah. When you analyze it closely, it's very obvious that there was a bunch of foul play and hanky-panky involved in all of the whole scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Hanky-panky.
Yeah.
Is that a technical term for massacres? Hanky
Well,
panky?
yeah, you got to have a little fun when you're doing stuff like this. It's in the dark, and it's fun to just have some fun with it.
Totally
Cody, give us just a little taste of what your initial evaluation of that event causes you to believe doesn't add up with what we're being told in the news and what makes sense in terms of firearms and physics and that sort of thing.
Okay, you mean Christchurch shooting in New Zealand?
Well, Thailand specifically.
Is that the one you're talking about? Or are you talking about?
We've been through Christchurch quite extensively, and I think people can go back into the archives and look at that. Have you had a chance to evaluate any of the images or any of the news coming out of Thailand? I mean, it's another one of these events where we're hearing all this stuff, but we're seeing just, a very small number of really controlled images.
Yeah, I haven't looked at any of the Thailand data. I do have an associate that's leaving the U.S. this morning that's flying over to Bangkok, and they'll be over there for a month investigating that along with coronavirus stuff. So I'll get some reports maybe for next week for live on the ground stuff. But right now I've been busy with this coronavirus stuff. I have a lot of information, technical stuff about the cause of it and so forth. So
yeah, let's touch on that.
I'm not up to speed on the Thailand stuff right now.
No problem. I'm thinking always. Yeah.
I've got people on the ground in Bangkok who have been looking into this already. So.
Okay, so
but
we will talk about.
Let's go into that in the show.
Yes,
yeah, for sure.
Real quickly, in the last 5 minutes here, Cody, what can you tell us about coronavirus that you've been learning over the past few days?
Well, we've been studying with some medical personnel the full genome evolutionary analysis of that novel coronavirus, the 2019 NCOV, and specifically dealing with amino acids and the protein spikes on the outer shell of the virus, the glycoprotein 5s, and the amino acids, and how when this is 3D modeled with electron microscopy and stuff, it appears that this virus may have, evolved from coronavirus and the bat virus that's already been found and cataloged from Yunnan, China. That's called the bat COVID RATG13. But the new data is showing in a nutshell that the amino acid residues in all of the 4 inserts, or the spikes that, are on the outside of the virus. Everyone's been seeing pictures, Jason, a little ball with a little spike sticking up. They have an identity or similarity to those on HIV or AIDS. And so it could be possible that this virus was in fact bioengineered. The data is not definitive, but we have some people in the medical profession, papers that have come out.
This always happens. Start talking about the most meaningful aspect and the phone cuts out. Cody, can you still hear us? Ole, you there?
I'm here.
See, it's amazing. That always happens, doesn't it?
It always happens.
I think we've lost
But
Cody.
also, I think so, but hopefully he'll be back. But also, I think it's very important, not to spread too much fear either. I mean, there's this wave of panic being spread around. And so when you look at something like that, not that I'm an expert, but what I see is that one of the symptoms from this alleged coronavirus, is pneumonia. That is one of the things. So when you look at how many people die from pneumonia in China on a normal year, I have here, there's some studies called Pneumonia Incidence and Mortality in Mainland China, Systematic Review of Chinese and English Literature, 1985 to 2008. And here, based on that, it's just death in China from pneumonia, which can be caused by, viruses, bacteria, fungi, whatever. Many of these things can cause pneumonia, colds as well. And here the numbers are, before the coronavirus, between 2.8 million up to 17 million deaths per year in mainland China. So here we have a massive number of deaths that was before the coronavirus, and with very similar symptoms and with the same. So it's like, it's very hard to know with these numbers that are being shared around they have all of this equipment that can only check your temperature. So if you got a slight cold, you can be labeled, one of these victims. And if you got a real cold, well, for sure. And if you got pneumonia or any of these things in between the two, they will say, well, it's the coronavirus. Or they can use that, at least, if what they're trying to is scare us. So because the bioweapons are so nasty in one way, because they go beyond borders. There's no political official agenda behind it. You can't see it. So it's all the time that we are being scared on a worldly scale, So here they can manipulate and control us in a totally different way than if we thought that there was a specific agenda behind it. And I think this is why they love this one.
And we've been hearing, Ole, that they're actually putting people who are suspected of having coronavirus in jail, which is, I don't really understand that.
But this is, when you look at who are they putting in jail? Normally when these things happen, it's dissidents or people, truth seekers or poets or, people that are really trying to understand what's going on in the world and is trying to work for freedom, are often people that are being helped to hospitals or mental institutions or prisons now they were talking about yesterday, but this is in the news. I don't trust the news at all because we don't know what is being pumped out here, I'll just give you an example like this. We're going to talk in the show here about one of these mass shootings in a shopping mall in Bangkok or in Thailand. And here we're being told up to 26 deaths. I've been saving everything I can, downloading everything, up to 26 people. But I have people who live in Bangkok and they've heard that there were 2 victims. So the difference between 2 and 26 is major, because also they say that one of them was a quarrel with one of his colleagues in the military that, but.
Right.
I tell you, I do not trust this one bit at all, because the similarities are so many with other, like this exact same way he's walking around in this super mall place with CCTV cameras filming him. I've got more or less the identical footage from the Istanbul airport a few years ago, where he's walking around dressed exactly the same, with a machine gun like that, looking for victims. Totally empty mall. And then we have the shoes. The shoes, for anyone who doesn't know about the shoes,
we might
sounds
have
like we're totally...
Cody back. Cody, are you back with us? Okay, let's do this, Ole. Let's break right now. We got to get Cody back on the line, and people can join us on patreon.com/lightonconspiracies, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We'll be on there in just 10 minutes, and we'll see everybody there. Thanks for watching.